Hey, what's going on, guys? Sebi here, and in today's video I'll be discussing my experience with carbs and why I think I responded well to carbs. So first, let's start with what I did before I started lifting. Now, I was a distance runner, and my diet primarily consisted of, if I had to remember, high carbs, mostly pasta every day, and I was really skinny as a kid. Now, when I started lifting, my diet was pretty similar. It got a little bit healthier, I would say, overall, but still a lot of carbs every day, a lot of pasta, very similar still. And I also hit a big growth spurt in high school. I grew a lot taller and gained a lot of size. And what happened was a lot of my muscles blew up when I started lifting during puberty. Then whenever I got into college, I started doing more and more research into dieting and stuff. And I came across certain things like carnivore and keto. And I didn't fully follow it, but I did adopt a lot of those principles. And I went on a rather low carb, high protein, high fat approach for a while. And most of my diet was primarily meat and eggs, with some fruits and vegetables in there too. And I noticed that my energy was steady and flat. So I didn't really get many energy crashes, but there also weren't really big energy peaks. I was always somewhere in the middle with my energy. And I was still consistently making progress in the gym. I was getting bigger and stronger. But there was a time where I was stalled and I was stuck at 170 pounds body weight. And I was eating a lot of food. I was being consistent in the gym, training hard. I was getting stronger bit by bit. And I probably was building a little bit of muscle mass during that time. But overall, the speed of the progress seemed like it was halted for some reason. Now, one benefit was that I noticed that I was able to stay pretty darn lean, even with so much food in my diet. And my face and my body in general seemed very de-bloated most of the time. And my face looked pretty lean. I would say my face is puffier now than it was a year and a half ago when I was doing this. But I wanted to see more progress, and I kept trying different things. And then I stumbled across the importance of carbs and how to use them to fuel properly and stuff. And I was like, all right, I'll give this a shot. And I started eating more carbs, and then boom, I put on 10 pounds in less than a month. I was up to 180, and then I stayed there for a while. Mostly I started drinking milk every day. And at first I was like, well, maybe it's not the carbs, it's probably just liquid calories in milk. The carbs probably did play a big role in that though. Then that summer I kind of recomped my way, staying at 180. Then we get into fall, which would be this past fall, 2025. I started eating more again, and especially increasing my carb intake now, this time with more than milk. I was eating rice, beans, pasta, and once again, I blew up again to like 190. Within like a month, I gained 10 pounds. And I actually was trying to recomp or main gain at that point, and my weight still went up, which since my growth spurt in high school was like the first time that's ever happened to me, where I put on 10 pounds by accident. So here's where my whole bro science comes into play. I think that what happened to me was that I was insulin sensitive. Then after a while of eating carbs and growing off of it, everything kind of balanced out, and I stalled for a while. And then when I went low carb, my body was like, oh, all the carbs are gone, and it was able to resensitize itself to the carbs. So I became more insulin sensitive. And then when I ate more carbs again, I saw a quick trend of growth. And I think this could be utilized pretty well. I also think that this could be used as a tool for fat loss. I think that if you are someone who is trying to get leaner, cutting out carbs could be a great option. And once you get down to a certain desired weight or a healthy leanness or shredded or whatever your goals are, then going into a higher carb diet again could do you well for your gym performance, because now you might be more insulin sensitive, and that glucose will go more into fat cells than it will, or more into muscle cells than it will into fat cells. I am thinking of doing a video primarily on insulin, but that is it for now. So see you next time.